Waka Dunkins. The Shining. Look at this. It's called The Overlook. Pretty spooky. I don't know. If I had an apartment complex that was called The Overlook, I'd, do some research on it. This is what it looks like, though. The Overlook. They're supposed to tell you when you move into an apartment complex. Any apartment complex is supposed to inform you if there's been someone killed or something happened. None of them do it. None of them ever do it. I gotta find these people and drop the food off at the door. I have to tell it as it is. I have to tell it in the present moment as it is. These people, these governmental figures, and I'm just gonna say it, the police, they want to fight. Listen, my best friend, his ultimate dream was to be a police officer. And all he ever talked about was killing people in the military. He wrote me a letter from the Marines saying they have taught me to kill, kill, kill. And I cannot wait to come back from Afghanistan and serve my country as a police officer. And they have taught me to kill. And that's wrong. That's why we stripped the guns from them. The wrong mentality. Biden hasn't done anything. He hasn't done a single thing. No police reform, zero police reform at all. I am still to this day watching police officers walk around with lethal sidearms. There are still people getting shot. Watch the donut operator. Watch him tonight. See how many people get shot on the donut operator. That's visual proof. It comes out of San Antonio. He's a vlogger that has millions of views a day. He gets 10 million views a day. Sometimes even more. 20 million views. An incredible amount of views. He's the most successful YouTube vlogger, but yet he's a butthole because he's making money off what I call the arena. He's making money off the Colosseums. In the Colosseum times, the Romans were put against other enemies and they were to kill and chop the heads off of these people, and the crowds would cheer. And they would do this to show them that they need to die. This meant death in Rome time. Die is what that meant. Death. That's what that meant. That's what that means. In Rome, that meant death. There is no such thing as this. That was invented by a French painter. It's a fictional thing. In Rome, they always did this, and it meant death. There was no sign in Rome for to live. It was only to die. To die for a cause. Die, die, die. Kill, kill, kill. That's all my friend ever talked about. Now, my friend lost his life. He went over to Afghanistan, the Sunni Triangle, and they killed him. Somebody killed him. Either friendly fire or the enemy or both. Both were the enemy because he lost his life over nothing. We didn't get more oil. That place is not liberal. It's not even more capitalist than our place. You can't fight for a political reason. If someone has told you to kill, then that means that they work for the devil and they want you to go out and imprison people and put people in bondage and then kill them. You put people in bondage with handcuffs. When Paul was talking about bondage, he was talking about chains and bondage. He was talking about real bondage. And Paul, who wrote the Bible, he wrote the New Testament, most of all the epistles, he was handcuffed to a Praetorian guard, which is a Roman guard. And that's how the message of the gospel was sent to the house of Caesar, because he was chained to him. He was chained, physically chained. He was in bondage with them. And that's where our country needs to wake up. Our country needs to wake up and realize what we're doing to people. We were started on Christian fundamental, right? The Constitution is like another version of Christian fundamentals, only it's been warped. The devil has got his hands in there, trying to imprison you. He's trying to put you in bondage. You know why? Because he wants you alone so that he can work his evil craft on you. He does not want you to have community. He does not want you to have church, and he does not want you to have communion, nor does he want you to be baptized. He doesn't want you anywhere near a church, and he does not want you to hear the word of God. Think of all the famous vloggers, and I got to say it, Adam the Woo, all the way down to Jordan the Lion. How long do they go on spills about the word of God, the most important thing that's in this presence of life, right? This our existence. The most important thing is the word of God. How many times have you heard Jordan the Lion talk about the word of God? He's very popular, isn't he? How many times have you ever heard Breck Roll mention the word God or Jesus Christ? How many times did Adam the Woo mention Jesus Christ in his vlog? Yeah, occasionally he reads a quote. But how many times do you hear them talking about Jesus Christ? He knows that if he does, no one will listen to him, because the Christian is shamed. The Christian is supposed to be this thing that Christ was. And I don't disagree with that, but we don't have to hang on crosses anymore, I can tell you this. And the Roman candle days are over. Although Roman Candle is very good, but Elliot Smith did a very good album called Roman Candle. It's one of my favorite albums. Remember that. I'll tell you why Elliot Smith is a better musician than you, okay? That's any existing person on the planet today and for many years to come. Elliot Smith had studied music when he was a child, and when he studied guitar, he studied what's known as chord progression. He knew every chord on the guitar about as much as Jimi Hendrix knew. So when he wrote a song, he designed it almost like shapes. He talked about it in an interview. Like an artist thinks of shapes, like a triangle or an open shape, or he thought about imagery when he wrote a song. And his music became part of his story, and it was personal to him. So when you listen to an Elliot Smith song, you never get tired of it, because you're listening to someone tell their own personal story, and he spoke through his guitar as well as through his song lyrics. Many musicians do not do that nowadays because they don't know the purpose of a message. They don't know the purpose of being a messenger. Now, we don't know if Elliot Smith was murdered, and we don't know if he took his own life. When they did the autopsy, they found no heroin. They found no drugs other than his prescribed drug, which was Ritalin, which I think is a cruel thing. But his Ritalin thing was off. But they found 2 puncture wounds in his chest, and they classified it as self-homicide, because when you kill yourself, it's actually considered homicide. It's self-homicide, or it's afflicting pain upon yourself to the point, So that's what it, because Jennifer Chiba was never charged. There was no charges against her, and she found him that way. So we don't know exactly what happened. If maybe he was just trying something, or he just flipped out, and it was like an instinctual kind of feeling that he had, or maybe it wasn't instinctual. Who knows what it was? It was probably unnatural is what it was. It wasn't instinctual, but I don't know why I said that. But it seemed like he always operated on instinct. He could barely even really talk in concert. He could play his music, not always that well. But some media people have talked bad about him, and call him this horrible drug addict and stuff. And what I always say in those situations is it's the disease that killed him. It's not their own decision. It's the disease that ends up taking their life. But I think what he did was he felt this certain pain wherever it was coming from, just like Kurt Cobain felt the pain of hunger because of what was going on with his stomach. Kurt Cobain had a horrible stomach issue. Anyway, and I think that Elliot Smith had a pain that was inside of him. Rather than feeling the pain, he could construct this artistic song, and he could escape inside the song. And that's what happens when you're listening to his music. Pink Floyd is the same too. Pink Floyd is a great band where you can escape into. There's a lot of great bands. But what I have to say about Christian music is I think Christian music's great. But it's very, very difficult to escape into Christian music like you can these other artists. Because you're not feeling pain with Christian music. What you're being reminded of is that there's an afterlife and that there's a time to worship if you can do that, if you're able to do that, if God allows you to do that. And it can be an emotional thing. There's nothing wrong with gospel music or evangelical music. Like, And I think the memory and the recall has to do with God too. But there are certain artists out there. Well, Mercy Me is, you could say Mercy Me. They have a kind of a connection to themselves as well as evangelical music. But you don't really escape into them completely. You're always reminded that it's God that you need, right? And in some of the other music, I think you can get lost. I remember when I was younger, The Cure, I listened to The Cure, as well as like Metallica and things like that. But The Cure, you could get lost in their music, and you could forget about your problems and who you are and what you have to do, and you're just focusing on this love song. And what it is it's kind of like taking an aspirin or taking a Tylenol or Advil, and for a moment, you're like, okay, I'm okay, I'm listening to Bottle Up and Explode, and I think it's a great song. I'm not against it. I'm not against a musician being personal and wanting to write down their own personal music and be personal with a crowd. They don't have to be evangelical, You don't have to, not every single one of your songs have to be evangelical songs that's dedicated to the Bible, because that can be just as bad as songs dedicated to heartache or drugs, right? Rather than songs that are just dedicated to the Bible. You don't have to serve just one thing all the time. That can drive you crazy. It doesn't matter what it is. You can call it broccoli. You can call it Jesus. That's fine. They want to name Jesus Christ. But they can drill that into you to where it's unpleasant. And it can be just as bad as a nail, And I don't know if it was drilled into Elliot Smith. I don't know. I got to pick this payway up right here. And then I got to drop it off at your doorstep. But I think that people have to be careful, and they have to allow people to find the things that they love and hang on to it. And listen, man, everybody in this country, no matter who you are, We love freedom. We love to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go over to our refrigerator, open it up, and have a little bit of juice, and maybe watch some cartoons, or maybe a video, you know, a music video. We like to have our personal freedoms. People do not want to be locked up like St. Paul in the Bible, you know. I think ministers are about as damaging as police officers. They think they know everything. And let me tell you, every minister on the planet, especially in the United States, they have the most beautiful wife and everything is given to them. You ever thought about that? Everything is given to them. They have no problems at all, you know? And that sometimes makes me wonder. Right there that I have busy right there that I have to be weary. They're just too crowded. Now I'm at Cinepolis Cinemas right now. And it's Ticket to Paradise is one of them. Wakanda Forever. Black Adam. Never heard of that. And then there's the Panther sign right there. But that's not what I'm looking for. I gotta pick up this Imperial Japanese sushi, which is right over here. I'm looking for a parking spot. I went by Cinepolis or Cinepolis is what they call it. It's like a movie house, movie cinema. Anyway, I don't know. But it's amazing how you'd want to learn his music, you know, because learning an Elliot Smith song takes a lot of focus and concentration. It takes you away from all your argument, you know, and you're like, okay, wait a minute. This chord is weird. This chord is weird. This one I'm familiar with, and this one, but look at these two chords. Didn't know they existed. See, that's the thing that Elliot Smith knew, is like this chord exists with these two chords. And if you pair them like this and you do hit them twice and hit them really hard, almost like a drummer, all of a sudden it sounds kind of, you know, crazy. Or it sounds cool, you know? I mean, fully packed. Fully packed. This is a cinema house right here. But yeah, so learning a song takes you away from who you are, and then you become part of the song when you can. I'm just gonna park way over here, and then I'll just run in and get the thing. What I'm doing now is I'm making myself practice at least 30 minutes a day at minimum, where I practice first and then I work on all my material. So if I'm gonna send up a vlog and stuff, by the end of the night, I do at least 30 minutes of rehearsal on the guitar, and then I do everything else. There it is, Imperial Hibachi Sushi. It's Japanese sushi.